Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Haribo, Dandavats everyone, Radhe Sham. So the last few days we've been memorizing a verse of the Bhagavad Gita every day as part of our Kripa Krishna Prem Academy. So we have memorized the 4 essential verses of Bhagavad Gita known as Chatusloki, those verses which encapsulate the message of the Bhagavad Gita in a nutshell. We've memorized those all, and now we're going to just briefly revise and discuss them. And then we're going to go forward to discussion on the Society of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We've been discussing that the last few days as well. So every day in the mornings, we have our Zoom meetings at this time, around 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We start with a kirtan, and then we have class and sloka memorization and discussion. So we're continuing that, and this is a very nice element of one's sadhana, spiritual practice, studying Shastra, and I plan to kind of expand this program into having a session for japa meditation and for different kinds of spiritual practices and exercises. So, but for now, what we'll be streaming is the class section. And also we have a Telegram group where we will have a group for spiritual support and study. And as a crucial element of this, it's not just about what we hear and learn, it's about what we practice. So a group for practicing these teachings, applying them. So Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text 8, we can say together. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvang pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvang pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Shri Krishna is saying, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Aham sarvasya prabhavo means everything comes from me. And so what is everything? Spiritual and material worlds. That world that we see around us, along with the multitude of countless universes, which are described to be like mustard seeds in a huge bag of mustard seeds. How many mustard seeds do you have in a large 50-gallon bag? So there's lots and lots of material universes, lots and lots and lots. All those universes come from Krishna, but that's not the summum and bonum of existence. There's the spiritual universes, which are of at least 3 times greater quantity and splendor, infinitely greater splendor, but of greater quantity and variety as well. That all comes from Krishna, as well as all living entities that live and reside within those realms. We should understand that the world is not merely there as empty space and then by chance there's some living entities that come within it. The world is there because the conscious entities are there. It's there as their realm to reside within. Kshetra and Kshetragya. Kshetra means the field of existence, and Kshetragya means the knower of that field. For God, his Kshetra or field of existence is everything, because he is present within everything and everything emanates from him. For the living entity, the field of existence is limited to our space, like this house right now is our Kshetra. The body and this extension, the house, the family, the area we live in, that's our Kshetra. At the largest point is like this world, if we travel around, that's our Kshetra. But for God, it's all universes, all time, all space is his kshetra. So that all comes from Krishna. So knowing this, that we are part and parcel of him, our nature is one of love. That's what we learn about in the Gita. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Knowing his nature, what happens, it's natural to develop devotion. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. It's another verse in the Gita. After many lifetimes, bahunam janmanam ante, after many lifetimes, jnanavam, one who is wise, mam prapadyante, surrenders unto me. Vasudeva sarvamiti, seeing that the Supreme Lord is everywhere. Sa mahatma sudurlabha, that person is very rare. Surrenders and performs bhajan. Gurudev describes, if you light a candle, the flame goes up towards the sun. Water in a river goes towards the ocean. Air goes towards the sky. So similarly, the soul flows towards God in its pure state. When water is frozen ice, it doesn't flow towards the ocean. It stays. So our process is getting rid of the temporary covered nature, which is called the naimatika dharma, covering over the atma, the acquired nature, false ego, and perception of this world and the self as the body. Not the self as the soul and the body as the vehicle. The body as the soul. We think like that. The body is the conscious abode, self. So I'm so attached to the body, but that is illusion. So how do we come to our natural state? Our natural state is one of love and relationship with the absolute truth in his own realm. Krishna says in the Gita, there's 8 material elements, generally as we understand, basic categories. Then there's the senses, objects, and so forth. Working senses, knowledge acquiring senses. But the elements are Bhumira-pona lovayu mano buddhireva chahankara dhyame bina prakritir astada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. These are the material elements. But there's a higher thing. Apariyang prakritim birime param jiva bhuta mahabaho yayadam dharyate jagat. The higher thing is the soul. The soul is a spiritual principle, and it's prakriti by nature, which means it's of the energy of God. Therefore, the nature of the energy and the energetic is one of love. That's called the basic of relationship. 2 inseparable halves which are drawn to each other because they have different natures. Essentially the same nature, but because they're of some kind of different quantity, some kind of different kind of energy, then they're drawn to one another like magnets. Problem is that God is a magnet and we are the iron filing drawn to him, but now we've become rusty. So we're not attracted to God. So the process of bhakti is removing the rust, removing the anarthas, the unwanted things, blocking as flow of devotion in the heart. That's described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Cheto Dharpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. Then we can see the self and God and understand, naturally awaken our loving relationship. These days we're celebrating Sri Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya's days, appearance days. There's a story of Ramanujacharya and a dacoit. He was so attached to a prostitute, he was always following her around like a dog. But she had devotion for the Lord, so she went for darshan of the Didi. And she was waiting for the curtains to open. And the dacoit, who was very wealthy and powerful, he stood in front of her with his back to the altar, looking at her. And all the priests were afraid to ask him to move because he was so fierce and so feared. So finally, the Guru, Ramanujacharya, came and said, please move aside now. Arti is going to start. You want me to look at this stone idol? Look at this beautiful woman. She is the best Didi. Ramanujacharya said, no problem. Just move a little bit to the side and you can stand halfway to her and halfway to the form of the Lord. This is what Guru does. He helps us. In the beginning, we're looking towards Maya. And Guru says, look towards Krishna. We say, no, Maya is so beautiful. Why should I look towards Krishna? Maya is so attractive. Oh, so relishable. So they say, okay, no problem. Look at Maya, but also just stand a little bit to the side. And then, by their blessing, by their mercy, they give us a little bit of spiritual Shakti and blessing so that we can get a glimpse or taste of Bhakti and the beauty of the Lord. So this dacoit stood half to the lady, half to the altar, and the altar opened. And Ramanujacharya said, just once, just look for one moment. So out of curiosity even, he looked. And Ramanujacharya blessed him that he could see the beauty of the Lord. And he became completely full of wonder, offered prostrated obeisance, and took shelter of Ramanujacharya and became his disciple, one of his prominent disciples, Duranda. And later he married that lady. Ramanujacharya said, no problem, you can marry her. And together you can do bhajan. Live together, take care of your family, children, everything. Perform bhakti, dharma, everything. But also understand that you have a relationship with God and that this world is temporary, and your material bodies and your relationships related to these bodies are also temporary. Develop bhakti. Ultimately understanding that when we see Krishna, we realize he's so beautiful. The soul also is so beautiful. This body that we have now is gross, mundane flesh, blood, pus, urine, stool. Spiritual form is full of eternal bliss, eternal existence, consciousness, and bliss, Satchidananda, like Krishna. So therefore we learn to surrender to Krishna. What is the process of surrendering to Krishna? Surrendering to Krishna means Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpan. Se kale Krishna dare kare atma sam. Se deha kare tar chirananda moya prakrita deha tar charana bhajai. Surrendering to Krishna means becoming like Krishna in due course. That's the process of spiritual initiation, Diksha. The process of becoming transcendently situated. Kare atma sam. Krishna makes us like himself. That's called Sharanagati. Surrender to Krishna. Don't think you're giving up anything. What does surrendering mean? Oh, I'm giving up so much for Krishna. I'm giving up so much. What am I giving up? I'm giving up the bars, my prison. I'm giving up the chains that hold me down. That is surrendering. Surrendering to the person who wants to free you. That is Sharanagati. Oh, no, but I'm so attached. I've decorated my prison so nicely. Look at the walls of my prison. Look at the pictures. I've done nice with the wardens and they let me put some pin-up models on my walls. Oh, I like my prison cell. It's very nice. I've been gradually getting my own escape route. But in samsara, you cannot escape of your own. Even if you escape the prison, you're surrounded by an endless ocean full of fearsome, wild creatures ready to eat you. So you can escape samsara on your own. It's like swimming across the Pacific Ocean on your own, except that ocean never ends. Want to escape samsara on your own? No, Guru Khan says, come with me. I'll remove these bars. It's only illusion. What are the bars in the chain? The Bhagavatam has described the jungle of material existence. The bars in the chain are attachments to material life and family. And as you try to escape that, they'll run behind you and try to pull you back. But this is the function of Maya, to bewilder the living entity. Those living entities who turn away from God, turn away from Krishna and come to this world to enjoy, then Krishna says, yes, so be it. As you like, as you wish. Krishna fulfills all desires. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kamam. Krishna alone fulfills all desires. So therefore he says, yes, do as you like. Do as you like. And Maya then enamors the living entity and arranges false ego, body, relations, and attachments. And then ultimately we end up fighting with each other because we all think we're trying to be God. So we fight with each other and then we get in so many problems. That's not God's fault. It's our choice. So now the question is how to turn back towards our natural state. Jayava dharma. Iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. When we realize through mercy and through purified consciousness that everything comes from God, including us. And so naturally we are attracted to him. When we see his beauty, he is very beautiful. We are very beautiful. And his existence in his realm is very beautiful. And there we can be happy, blissful, perpetually, and also travel with the Lord, his grand adventures, his different leelas. So why should we be attached to this, remaining in this very dull and miserable existence. Should go to Krishna. So that's described the process of initiation. Sharanagati, surrender, and then become initiated. And then after that initiation, what happens? Our soul is offered to Krishna, and then Krishna says, I make you like me. Because without becoming like me, how are you going to relate with me? You're not going to be able to understand and relate with me. So I make you spiritual like myself in due course. That is the process of bhakti, bhajana kriya. The process of spiritual life is to achieve that kare atma sama, spiritual form. As Krishna has spiritual form, we shall also have spiritual form. Yang Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam. Swarup, his form is achintya, inconceivable to materialistic people, because it's beyond their senses, beyond the purview of the material senses. So therefore we go to Krishna and we realize his spiritual form and our own spiritual form. Haribo Gokul Guru Dandavats. Radhe Radhe. So we're just finishing up our recap and then continuing to read. We actually were reading last night more of this article and discussing with the devotees. So we're just recapping the Chatusloki Bhagavad Gita and then going forward. So this is our mood. What is iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samandita? We shouldn't think it's an unnatural state. It's the natural state of the living entity. We have to get rid of the unnatural state, the naimatik svabhav. And then how do we do that? Buddhi Yoga, second chapter, Sankhya Yoga, and then Krishna, of course, teaches Buddhi Yoga within the second chapter. Neha vikramo nāsasti pratyavayo navidite svalpam abhyasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayat. Now I will teach you that knowledge, that Buddhi Yoga, knowledge of yoga with pure intelligence, by which you will come to me. And the smallest amount of endeavor in that path was never lost. Why? Because in other paths, we worship the demigods for material fruits. We worship God for material results, and we get those results, and so it's temporary. But when we worship the Lord for a nirgun, understanding our nature and his nature, and follow nirgun bhakti, then that is akshay, imperishable. Krishna says, even if you fall from the path, I will lift you up, and you'll continue on that path, because it's such a glorious thing. So we'll go to the next verse. Majchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mang nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. Majchita madgata prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantascha mang nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this is the life of the devotees. We look at our Guru Maharaj, your Guru Maharaj, and those who travel and preach. What is their Tushyanti Ramanti? What gives them Tushyanti, satisfaction, and Ramanti, transcendental bliss? Harikatha. Speaking Harikatha, forming kirtan, and thinking about Krishna. Shravanam, kirtanam, smaranam. Speaking, hearing, remembering Sri Krishna. This gives great bliss. Why? Because when we love Krishna, anyone we love, we like to talk about, to think about, to hear about. If we love someone, we love to talk about them, hear about them, think about them. So what greater love is there than the love for Krishna when we realize our relationship with him? Therefore, the devotees naturally, when they perform bhajante mam, when they worship Krishna, then naturally they're going to feel bliss and satisfaction, thinking and speaking and hearing about him. So this is the process of bhakti. Shravanam, kirtanam, smaranam. This is Swarup Siddha Bhakti, perfected, pure devotional service. So therefore, this is very important. And how do we achieve that level? By practice. So we practice this process of morning and evening, doing Harikatha, hearing about Krishna, doing Kirtan, chanting and singing about Krishna, and Smaran, remembering Krishna while chanting Japa. We remember Krishna. This can awaken our dormant love for God. The next verse. 10:10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatang priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. It's a very sweet, beautiful verse. We may endeavor for our own knowledge, our own understanding, but we're limited by our material senses, mind. So we cannot understand the absolute. Achintya gunasvarupam. He is achintya, inconceivable to the mundane mind and senses. You can take a microscope and look everywhere. Where is God? Where is God? There's a novel. I think it's called 100 Years of Solitude. Very beautiful, interesting, kind of metaphysical novel. Spanish. Anyhow, one of the patriarchs of the community was searching for God when they came out with the camera, the first camera. And he would make this elaborate thing and take pictures and try to find God. And finally, he decided after a long time of doing this that God didn't exist. So this is the material pursuit of knowledge. God doesn't exist because we can't see him with our material eyes. But God is transcendental. And if we approach him properly, we can see him in the form of the deity. The Madhyam Adhikari that it's described, we were talking about the 3 levels of devotees. Before we learned these 4 verses, we talked about the 3 levels of devotees. How the Kanishta, beginner devotee, has devotion and faith in the form of the Lord as the deity, but they see him as the deity. The Madhyam also sees as the deity, but understands that he is the Supreme Lord by knowledge, that he is not just an idol, a deity. He is actually the Supreme Lord present in that form in a way that we can kind of perceive him. But the pure devotee, they only see the Lord. Shakshat Brajendra Nandana. Mahaprabhu said, Vigraha natumi, you are not a deity, an idol. You are directly the Supreme Lord. So that is the conception of the pure devotee. So in the similar way, Vidami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. When you have love for Krishna, you perceive Krishna. You have love for Krishna purely, priti purvakam, with love. People say Bhagavad Gita is about work and knowledge. Oh, your adhikar is to work. Karmanyeva adhikaraste. You have qualification to work. But eva, certainly for one, adhikaras, work for Krishna. Yat karosi adasnasi jahosi dasi adyat tapasyasi kunte atat guru svamararpanam. People who are attached to mundane work, karma, they say the purport of the Gita is work. When you're a little bit more knowledgeable, you understand Krishna says, to whom should you work for? And then he says, Yad karosi adasnasi jahosi dasi adyat tapasyasi kunte atat guru svamararpanam. Work for me. Offer everything to me. So when you start to realize that, then you understand what does it mean to do everything for Krishna. To do it for Krishna means to love Krishna. Then it becomes seva. Otherwise, we're doing it for ourselves. Even we may be doing it and worshiping God. We may be doing arati for Krishna. But the reason for it is we want something for ourselves. There's still some underlying selfishness. We have not understood yet that the true self-interest lies in relationship and service to Krishna, because he is the soul of our soul, the self of our self. Everything we do in this world is based on self-interest, but it's lack of awareness of what is our true self-interest. Because Krishna is Paramatma, the super soul, the soul of our soul, our true self-interest lies in relation with him. And that loving relationship with him, therein lies our true realization of self-interest. Therefore, Krishna says, if you learn to love me, I give you all intelligence to come to me. You don't have to worry about separate pursuit of knowledge. By doing that, we can conquer the unconquerable Lord. By what process? Simply love and devotion and hearing Harikatha from saintly personalities. Then all pure knowledge will come. Then there's no need of a pursuit of material knowledge or speculative knowledge of our own. So Krishna says, Tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. By this, I give you the understanding by which you can come to me. Now we'll do the last Chatusloki verse. 10-11. Tesham evanukampartam mahamma jnanajam tamaha nasayam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena bashvataha. Tesham evanukampartam mahamma jnanajam tamaha nasayam yatma bhavasto jnana dipena bashvata. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So this is showing Krishna's power. We're afraid of Maya, we're afraid of samsara, we're afraid of death, we're afraid of Bhayam Dvitiya. Fear is the basic condition of material life. Bhayam. Because of Dvitiya Abhinivesh, we think we're separate from Krishna. So we're fearful. We're very small and Maya is all around us, very powerful. So many people, from the time we're a child, we're afraid, looking under the bed, looking in the closet, there's something there trying to get us. Even sometimes as adults, we don't want to go into a dark room alone, or some foreign place alone, or walk down a dark street alone. We're afraid. Krishna says, you don't need to fear. To show you special mercy, when you're following this process, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. All we have to do is surrender. Take up this process of Diksha. What is Diksha? Diksha is a school, a process. Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat. That process which gives transcendental knowledge, like this is described, destroying the darkness of ignorance. Kuryat Papasya Sankshayam. Destroying all pap, seed of sin, which is the darkness born of ignorance. Anarthas, unwanted impediments to spiritual life in the heart. So Krishna says this is the process of Diksha again. Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadyat Kuryat Papasya Sankshayam. The process by which divine knowledge awakens and all sinful tendencies are just completely destroyed. I destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance.
Gurudev said yesterday that avidya means forgetfulness of Krishna.
Therefore, all of the imports of scripture are the maid servants of the two primary teachings of Shastra. This is a beautiful verse. Everything you'll learn in scripture is all the servants of two main injunctions. Smartavya Satatam Vishnu, Vismartavya Ajatachit. Sarvavidam Nishidurshu Etaro Eva Kinkara. Kinkara means a maid servant. So even this is showing the path of Unnata Ujjvala Rasva Bhakti Shriyam in a hidden, indirect way. Kinkari. All the Shastra is the kinkari of two instructions. Always remember Krishna. Smartavya Satato Vishnu, Vismartavya Najatachita. Never forget Krishna. All other instructions and rules and regulations are based on the maidservants of these two principles. So avidya, ignorance, is bhayam dvitiya binivesh, turning away, bahirmukh, turning away. So that's what we've been discussing the last few days. What is our proper use of our energy and time? Fighting darkness or serving the light? When we serve Krishna, then he, dwelling within our hearts, destroys with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Jnana dipena bashvata. That effulgent lamp of divine knowledge, Gyan, from within the heart, illuminates our entire being. Then we become a walking torchlight, divine loving service. Wherever we go, that light also enlightens others, encourages others. Then we can purely and properly serve and also preach. Without being enlightened, what is that? Jnana dipena bashvata. Without being enlightened, how are we going to enlighten others? We have to be a burning torch, and then we can ignite others. Kindle is the spiritual spark in others. So this is our meditation. How do we become in that platform of Jnana Dipena Bashvata? Gradually, we have to turn the tide of the war against Maya. Turn the tide of the battle. We're always in retreat. Maya is pummeling us. We're always in retreat. And we've lost hope. And all friends, they're all becoming forlorn. What hope remains? Therefore, what do we do? If we're losing in a battle, what do you do? If you're losing in a battle and over the horizon comes a great friend, a great ally of great power and strength, and he rides on his chariots to help us, And then in the hearts of the enemy, fear awakens and they easily routed and they turn tail and run. So who does that great ally we should call out to for help? Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says, Gale Badva Hanye, oh Guru Jan, oh great saviors, oh Guru Dev, oh Vaishnava Thakur, oh saintly personalities. My throat has become tied with the noose of material desires and the dacoits in the road of material life, lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness. They're dragging me towards hell by my own sinful deeds. Asat chesta kasta. Please save me. Call out, Pukar. Loudly call out for the help of the generals of devotion. Hey Rupa Raghunath, hey Sanatan Goswami, hey Jeev Goswami, hey Guru Pada Padma, Oshla Prabhupada, Oshla Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj, Oshla Gurudev, O Guru Maharaj, please help me. Gurudev is present as Krishna is present. He is eternal. Akanda Guru Tattva. He will come and protect you. So if you're worried about losing that battle, call out for great help. If they come, Maya will fold her hands and offer pranam. Oh, okay, you're here. Okay, time to go. Haribol. I'll leave them alone. Like Yamaraj, the Yamadutas brought Ajamil. Yamaraj said, what have you done? Why do you bring this person to me? He once chanted the names of Narayan. Don't bring him to me. And he said, if anyone's ever wearing neck beads, anyone has tilak, anyone has any devotion for Hari, even they're sinful, even they haven't given up their bad tendencies, still do not bring them to me. There's nothing to fear. Devotees will never have to suffer in the hellish condition of life. As long as we, very carefully progress in this path, avoid Vaishnava Parad, offensive to the devotees, and steadily try to follow this path. We have nothing to fear. So Jnanati Pena Bhaspata, Krishna will give us that torchlight of divine knowledge. Therefore, what is that torchlight of divine knowledge? Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka Chakshuram Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Oh Gurudev, you are Krishna coming to save me. You are the messenger of Krishna coming to save me. Therefore, we should take shelter of Gurudev. Krishna sends him. Therefore, Krishna says, Acharya Mambi Janiyam. Know that the Acharya is myself. I have sent him. The messenger of the king is as good as the king. So therefore, Guru is as good as God, because he is the messenger of the Lord. And therefore, Jnanati Pena Bhaspata, how does that torchlight of knowledge come in our life? Om Jnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalaka. That torchlight of divine knowledge is Sri Guru. So therefore, we pray to Sri Guru. And Krishna appears as the mercy of Sri Guru. Therefore, Yasya Deve Para Bhaktir Yata Deve Tatha Guru Tasyaite Katita Yartha Prakashante Mahatmana. We should have similar devotion for the Lord as for Sri Guru. Similar devotion for Sri Guru as for Sri Hari. Then to such a person, all Sastra will be revealed. That means that torchlight of divine knowledge. It's described in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. When that torchlight of divine knowledge illuminates our life, at such a point, Maya's bondage will very easily be shattered. So these are the 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita called Chatusloki Bhagavad Gita, the essence of the Gita. And we will now continue reading from the Society of Sri Gauranga. Yesterday we talked a lot about Ishtagoshti and what does it mean to have an Ishtagoshti. That was a very nice discussion. And we will continue reading. Gokul Prabhu, Dandavats, would you like to read a little bit? Can you close that? Radhe Radhe. I'll read a little bit and then we can pick up from there. We were reading yesterday about this section discussing what is the meaning of Ishtagoshti. Ishtagoshti is Krishna Katha Goshti. Ishtagoshti is not discussing our problems and trying to think about how to solve them. Ishtagoshti is discussing about Krishna.
And he said that yesterday.
What did he say?
He said this is Ishtagoshti, trying to understand all these things, the moods of Rupa Goswami, the teachings of Rupa Goswami.
Hi, Chandra. There you go. Ishtagoshti is this. Ishtagoshti is not discussing material problems and trying to solve them. And then we talked about how, although this is a transcendental society, meaning it's transcendental ideal, eternal, sanatan, still it's helpful to found organizations in this world without being too attached to them, understanding that they're like a vessel serving this cause of ferrying the jivas, the living entities, across samsara, the ocean of material existence. So therefore they have some purpose. So we read this point that I skipped this paragraph, we'll read it. The duty of an intermediate Vaishnava in the society of Sri Gauranga, Gauranga Samaj.
Yeah.
This whole article was in Bengali, so they kept the title Gauranga Samaj, but that's translated as the Society of Sri Gauranga. The Vaishnavas on the Madhyam or intermediate level remain under the guidance of Uttama Vaishnavas and are the benefactors of Kanishta Vaishnavas or neophyte devotees. Therefore, Uttam and Madhyam Bhaktas, the topmost and the intermediate devotees, are qualified for the bhajan section of Sri Gauranga Samaj. According to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as a footnote, the bhajan section and the section that focuses on external work, they are the two divisions. The division a person belongs to depends on his adhikar or qualification, whether he is Kanishta or Madhyam or Uttam. So Madhyam and Uttam is in the bhajan section. Although they may occasionally participate in the activities of the working section, they do not manifest their competence in such work like the Kanishta devotees who are fond of it. However, with the assistance of the Kanishta Vaishnavas, they accomplish whatever work needs to be done. So building of temples, distribution of books. This is all for it's like the foot soldiers of the movement of Krishna consciousness on the front lines. And then Madhyams, they're like the officers and lieutenants, and the Uttam is like the pure devotee, the generals. And who is the king? Sri Krishna Mahaprabhu. So in this way, the army of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu functions.
Yeah, but Prabhupada said like we're satisfied with just a small hut, like very simple, but for the people in general.
Srila Gauragovinda Maharaj lived in a mud hut, even when they built a beautiful temple. And Srila Prabhupada, when he came to stay with him, he also stayed there and they built another hut for him. He said, I will stay with my disciple. So this is the understanding of, our main purpose and conception. Why is it so important that the Madhyams and the Uttams stay in the bhajan section? Because otherwise they will not be able to preach with deep meaning. When a Kanishta preaches of their own, like on their own, it doesn't hold so much. Gurudev said, you can go and preach, but what are you going to do? Is anyone going to listen? He said, you may say I was reading this like 2 days ago. Gurudev said, you can be saying the exact same things I say. You can say the same words in the same manner of speech, but are you going to preach like I preach? And then he was saying took the humble position. He was saying what am I able to do? But you look at the acharyas and how they preach. They may say the same slokas, but the way it impacts people is completely different. So the point is that the Madhyam and the Uttam, Madhyam is generally actually the main preachers. And the Uttam is who everyone takes shelter of, Mahabhagavat. But the Madhyams are also on the front lines of preaching. So,
you said yesterday, I pray that in your next life you can do bhajan.
Yeah. They've had this story with one Vaishnava leader, and they had many, many temples. And he said, how is your bhajan? They said, oh, I'm so busy, I'm maintaining all the temples. He said, in your next life, pray that you can do bhajan. So ultimately, the goal of life is relation with Krishna and going to his realm. So the importance of doing bhajan is that without that, we cannot actually really help people because we're not helping ourselves. But at the same time, why is the Kanishta not instructed to just do bhajan? Because they need to build up sukriti through seva. Bhajan is also seva. Because doing that, it's filling your well so that you can give water to others. This mercy, ras, bhakti ras. And so if you don't absorb yourself in that meditation and service to the Lord, but also in that realm, in the higher realm, you're serving. I know Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, we were recently discussing this, that they can't even, most of the time, they're not aware of where they are. And therefore they just stay in a temple and cook and just katha and this routine. Because it's almost like this world is when they're in this world, it's like they're in some kind of dream. And they're going in and out of that dream very quickly. Meaning someone says something to you or something, you pop back out into this world and you see it. And then immediately you pull back out into that spiritual world. Your Atma is more there. This is the condition of the Uttam. Sometimes they'll come into this world. Mostly they're in that world. So therefore they send Madhyam devotees, you should go and you should preach. But ultimately it's described here that the Madhyam must be under the shelter of the Uttam to be successful. The Kanishta under shelter of the Madhyam, Madhyam under the shelter of the Uttam, and in this way they can be successful in their service.
For an Uttam to
And
preach,
the
he must
Kanishta, by
have
doing seva, they build up Sukriti, that kind of foundation of spiritual life by which they can ultimately serve in the higher levels. Because without Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada says, Dusta mantumi kishla Vaishnava, oh, wicked mind, what kind of Vaishnava are you? Pratishtara gare nijanera gare. If the Kanishta tries to imitate the Madhyam and the Uttam, it'll be only out of the desire for prestige, name and fame. And so they'll become more fallen. Therefore, we have to wait for our proper development. We look at all our acharyas, how they serve tirelessly and how they still serve. So they still, Madhyam, they serve. You see, Srila Trivakam Goswami Maharaj, he was cleaning the latrines in Navadvip Parikrama. Hundreds of them alone. But in his bhajan, he's always doing bhajan during that even. That's the secret. But even when the Madhyams are doing work, they're in bhajan. This is the distinction of what is a Madhyam. Mahaprabhu says a Madhyam is those who are always absorbed, chanting, meaning internally always absorbed. Even when they're doing external work, they're absorbed internally. Padam Gurudev gave this same example. He was speaking to lawyers and barristers and businessmen, and they were bringing up mundane topics and politics, and he was externally conversing with them. And Gurudev was sitting next to him, but he left for some other thing. And he told Gurudev, this is when Gurudev was first joining the Mat, he said, sit with me. Even though it seems like I'm talking about these things, understand I'm not there. And it's like when you're in the sunlight. When you're in the sunlight, you're receiving that glow of the sun. So be in the presence of the sadhu. Even if they're doing mundane things externally, because they are that jnana dipena bhashvata, they are that torchlight of divine knowledge. So it is radiating from them. So simply being in their presence is purifying. Okay, so let's keep reading. We read about Ishta Goshti and Vaishnava society as other ways of referring to Gauranga Samaj. We talked about how Ishta Goshti means Krishna Katha Goshti, speaking about Hari Katha. Now we'll read how Gauranga Samaj is universal. The purport is that when all types of people congregate in assemblies organized by devotees or faithful people, a general assembly of Gauranga is formed. A congregation consisting solely of devotees is called a Vaishnava assembly or an Ishta Goshti of Vaishnavas. When two Shuddha Bhaktas meet, a Krishna Katha Goshti takes place. When two Shuddha Bhaktas meet. And when a single Shuddha Bhakta resides somewhere to exclusively chant the holy name, it is called a place of Nirjan Bhajan or solitary devotional practice. The people in all these categories are included in Sri Gauranga's society. It can therefore be concluded that the purpose of Sri Gauranga's congregation is to cultivate activities related to the eternal constitutional occupation of the living entity, Jaiva Dharma, throughout the universe. The founding of Sri Gauranga Samaj in Calicut and an instruction for the society's leader. We talked about this last night a little bit. I'm going to end in like 2-3 minutes and we'll continue on this topic. Tonight, we're going to be at the temple, Govindaji Gaudiya Mat. And then, so maybe tomorrow, we'll continue on this theme tomorrow morning. By the inspiration of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the Gauranga Samaj has been established in the vast city of Kolkata. This is a matter of extreme good fortune for the public. Now it is the responsibility of every noble-hearted, genuine seeker of the truth to work on promoting and preserving it. This society will not remain undisturbed unless its members vigilantly avoid selfishness, hypocrisy, and the desire for honor and prestige. In the land of Bengal, these three faults pollute whatever grand mission is inaugurated, and consequently that mission is eventually ruined. With folded hands, we humbly beg the big-hearted leaders of the society to remain ever conscious of this. If the members of this society can follow all the ancient rules and regulations of Sat Dharma or true religion, while remaining unaffected by the three improprieties mentioned above, the society will flourish. Unity alone is the life of any community. The introduction of a new opinion or the divergence of opinion will destroy the unity of its members and eventually ruin the very life of the society. We, however, will perform kirtan of Gauranga Mahaprabhu's glories and never be envious of the opinions and activities of the other sampradayas. The most venerable Haridas Thakur has said, Shunabap Shabarai Ekai Ishwar Namatra Beda Kore Hindaye Yavane Paramartha Ek Kahe Kore Korane Purane Ek Shudanitya Vastu Akanda Avyaya Paripurna Hai Vashe Jabara Hridoy She Prabhuda Nama Guna Shakale Jagate Bolena Shakale Matra Nija Shastra Mate Je Ishwara Se Puna Shabara Babaloy Hingsha Korile Se Tahar Hingsha Hoy Chaitanya Bhagavat Adikanda 6, 76 to 78 and 80 to 81. Dear Father, the Supreme Lord is one for all living entities. The difference between the Muslim God and the Hindu God is in name only. All scriptures, whether the Quran or the Purans, state that there is only one Supreme Lord. He is the non-dual, eternal, transcendental, absolute truth, infallible and perfectly complete. And in that capacity, he resides in everyone's heart. The Supreme Lord's transcendental name and qualities are glorified throughout the world by various scriptures. The Lord accepts each individual's mood of surrender. And when you are violent to others, you are being violent to the Lord himself. Kanda kanda hoy dehajai jadi pran tabu ami badane nachadi harinam chaitanya bhagavat. Adikanda 1694. My body may be cut into pieces or I may lose my life, but I will never abandon uttering the holy name. So with that, we'll conclude for today. Have a short kirtan. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranams, everyone who's watching. We'll be doing a program again tonight. I don't think we'll be able to go live, but tomorrow morning we'll be live at this same time on the same link. Hare Krishna, Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam.